My husband screamed, "This is my house. You're just a guest." When Sarah married James, she was enchanted by the promise of a lifetime of happiness in a house that seemed to have stepped out of a fairy tale. The Victorian mansion, with its sprawling gardens and intricate woodwork, was a tangible representation of the life she had always dreamed of. James had inherited the house from his parents, and it was filled with memories and mementos of his childhood. Sarah fell in love with the house almost as much as she had fallen in love with James. For the first few years, their life together was idyllic. They hosted family gatherings, threw lavish parties, and spent quiet evenings by the fireplace. But as the years passed, the house began to feel more like a gilded cage for Sarah. James's attachment to the house, which she once found endearing, started to reveal a darker side. It began with small things. Whenever Sarah suggested changes or wanted to redecorate, James would become defensive. "This house has been in my family for generations," he would say. "We can't just change things on a whim." Sarah, wanting to keep the peace, would acquiesce, but the feeling of being a guest in her own home grew stronger. One rainy afternoon, Sarah decided to tackle the cluttered attic. She spent hours sorting through old trunks and boxes, discovering family heirlooms and forgotten treasures. She found a dusty old photo album filled with pictures of James's ancestors. As she carefully cleaned and organized the attic, she imagined turning it into a cozy reading nook. Excited, she shared her idea with James when he came home from work. "I found some amazing things in the attic today," she began, her eyes sparkling. "I was thinking we could turn it into a reading nook. It would be a perfect place to relax." James's face hardened. "The attic is fine the way it is," he said curtly. "Those are my family's things up there. They should stay as they are." Sarah's heart sank. "But they're just collecting dust. Don't you think it would be nice to actually use the space?" James shook his head. "This is my house, Sarah. You need to respect that." The argument that followed was the first of many. James's possessiveness over the house grew, and with it, Sarah's sense of alienation. She started to feel like an outsider, her opinions and desires dismissed as inconsequential. The house, once a symbol of their love, became a battleground. The breaking point came one evening when Sarah decided to repaint the guest bedroom. She chose a soft, calming blue, hoping it would create a welcoming atmosphere for their guests. When James came home and saw the freshly painted walls, he exploded. "What have you done?" he shouted, his voice echoing through the house. "I thought it would look nicer," Sarah replied, her voice trembling. "The old color was so dark and gloomy." "This is my house," James roared. "You can't just make changes without consulting me." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "I live here too, James. Don't I have any say in what happens in this house?" James's face twisted with anger. "You're just a guest here, Sarah. This is my family's home. You need to understand that." Sarah felt a cold chill run down her spine. His words hit her like a physical blow, confirming her deepest fears. She realized that no matter how much she loved James, she would never truly belong in this house. That night, Sarah packed a suitcase and left. She moved in with a friend, seeking solace and space to think. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. She loved James, but she couldn't live in a place where she felt so unwelcome and undervalued. James, too, was miserable. The house felt empty without Sarah's presence, and he began to reflect on his actions. He realized how much his words and behavior had hurt her. The house that he had always seen as a symbol of his family's legacy was now a reminder of his failure to make Sarah feel at home. After weeks of soul-searching, James reached out to Sarah. He apologized, acknowledging how wrong he had been to treat her as an outsider. He admitted that his attachment to the house had blinded him to her needs and feelings. Sarah listened, her heart aching with a mix of love and pain. She wanted to believe that things could change, but she needed more than words. She needed actions. James proposed selling the house. It was a difficult decision, but he knew it was the only way to show Sarah that he was serious about making things right. They put the house on the market and started looking for a new place together. The process of selling the house and finding a new home was challenging, but it also brought them closer. They spent countless hours discussing their future, their dreams, and their fears. They found a small, charming house in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't as grand as the Victorian mansion, but it was theirs. As they settled into their new home, they discovered a newfound sense of partnership. They decorated the house together, each decision a reflection of their combined tastes and styles. The house became a true home, a place where both of them felt valued and loved. James worked hard to rebuild Sarah's trust. He attended counseling sessions and read books on relationships, determined to become a better husband. Sarah, too, learned to communicate her needs more effectively and to stand up for herself. Years later, as Sarah watched their children play in the backyard, she felt a deep sense of contentment. James walked over and wrapped his arms around her, and they stood together, watching their family grow. "I'm glad we found this place," James whispered. "Me too," Sarah replied, leaning into him. "It's our home." James kissed her cheek, and Sarah knew that they had come a long way. The journey had been difficult, but it had led them to a place where they truly belonged, together. In the end, it wasn't the house that mattered, but the love and commitment they shared. Their new home was a testament to their resilience and their willingness to fight for each other. And in that house, Sarah finally felt like she belonged. In my husband screamed, "This is my house. You're just a guest." Sarah's dream of a fairy tale marriage is shattered when she realizes her husband's deep-seated possessiveness over their family home. As James's attachment to the house grows, Sarah feels increasingly like an outsider. Tensions rise when James's outburst reveals his view of Sarah as merely a guest in their home. Heartbroken, Sarah leaves, prompting James to confront his behavior and the legacy of his family's house. Their journey to rebuild their relationship involves selling the mansion and creating a new home together, symbolizing their renewed commitment and shared future. This emotional tale explores themes of love, belonging, and the struggle to redefine home and partnership.